Hello, Tech Pros, episode 185. Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to be here on day 3 of our signature series course about career development. It is the hyperdrive of career development. We're going to kick your career into hyperdrive and make that jump to light speed and get you moving and shaking in your current job and be more valuable to the company that you work in, or when you are ready to look for your next job, make you absolutely invaluable to the companies that want to hire you. So if you missed it, if you missed yesterday or Monday, normally on this show, we have a featured guest to come in and talk to us about leadership on today's episode. But this is that very special week, our signature series week, where we discuss a single issue, a single topic, this week being career development. And we're going to nail it front to back all 7 days of the week and relate all of our normal 7-day-a-week topics, motivation, productivity, leadership, et cetera, all the way through the week. Relate all of those small topics, those daily topics, to our overall issue of career development to help you get unstuck in your career, which may have plateaued and you may not be climbing as much as you used to, right? Or you may not be accelerating your career the way that you thought you would be now. So throughout this course, we're going to have some takeaways, we're going to have some call to actions, we're going to have some homework, we're going to have some resources for you to use to get unstuck in your career and move it to the next level. To get access to all 7 days of the content, as well as all 7 days of the takeaways and the resources and the action items and the homework, you're going to have to go to hellotechpros.com/career, and there'll be a sign up button. You sign up for the full course. It's free. It's absolutely free. You get all this information that we're talking about here on the show, and I'm going to really help you, hold you accountable to actually following through with the homework and implementing it. Because just listening to these podcasts, just listening to anybody's podcast, or going to a conference and listen to anybody's talks, reading a book, watching a video, those actions alone don't make the difference. What makes the difference is actually putting them into action. And so the emails that I send you are going to prompt you in order to take that action and follow through and actually implement the things that you're learning throughout the course so that you'll actually make that jump to light speed in your career. So if you missed Monday, we talked about how to get motivated in your job, how to get motivated in your career again. Dude, Mondays sometimes are not motivation Mondays. Sometimes it's we feel that it's the worst day of the week because we're just completely unmotivated. So on Monday in this course, on day 1 in this course, I talked about how we can really get into the mindset of a motivation Monday and how we can be very thankful for Mondays again and very excited for Mondays to get here because we're being proactive about our own career development. Regardless of what's going on in the industry, regardless of what's going on at work, we can be proactive, and there's several steps that we can take in order to get excited again about the week, excited again about our careers. Then yesterday on Productivity Tuesday, I told a personal story about a time at work when I was completely unproductive. And at the beginning, that was because I had lost my motivation and I was unproductive because I didn't have that motivation, and how important it is to have that motivation. So that's why it's so important to go back to that Motivation Monday episode, that first episode in this series, and really understand why it's important to get motivated and then how to get motivated. Okay, so then I got motivated and I started working really, really hard, and I started being very proactive in my career. And I tried to multiply my output by multiplying the hours that I put into the job, or the effort that I put into the job, or the hustle that I was providing at work. And it really, it worked for a while. It worked for a while until I got to about 110% of my normal productivity capabilities. And then my productivity actually started falling off because I was putting too much effort into too many different things, and I was completely killing myself inside and out. I was not fulfilling my commitments. I was not getting the job done, and my productivity actually fell off because of the amount of extra hustle and extra commitments and extra things that I was trying to do at work. And it was not good. So in that story, I talked about how you can 5x your output by actually decreasing the amount of hustle, decreasing the amount of hours that you put into the job. You don't need to necessarily kill yourself and put in 80, 120 hours into your work. You don't need to volunteer for every special project in the job in order to have a huge impact on your career or have a huge impact to the company that you work for. So go back to yesterday's episode to get that information. Again, go to hellotechpros.com/career to get access to all of these episodes and all of these takeaways. And as we were wrapping up yesterday's episode, I had a teaser to today's episode and today's content about what I did after I found the secrets to increasing my output and 5xing my output without 5xing my hustle. As I started doing that, I started noticing that we had other people in the company who also could benefit from the same thing, right? Who could benefit from the lesson that I had just learned. At the time, at the company, we had a lot of new individuals being hired on. So beforehand, we had a lot of people leaving the organization. We had a big culture shift in the leadership, in the overall leadership of the organization, the overall leadership of the IT department. And there's a lot of people who left due to that restructuring. Some of the departments got smashed together, other departments got torn apart. A few people were let go because of some divestitures of some pieces of the company. And so it was a really, really stressful time in which I lost my motivation. I talked about that on episode 1 and 2 of this series. But at the end of the day, you know what? We recovered, the team recovered, we started hiring people back, and there was a lot of people that were really trying to prove themselves in their new jobs. We had so many new people that were so excited and motivated to prove themselves that that they were going to be awesome employees. And so they were looking to me and to some of the other people. At the time, I was a software developer, looking to me as kind of that mentor or that guide to how does it work here in this organization? Like, what should we do? And I noticed that a lot of people had a ton of energy and they were putting in a ton of work. But in many cases, they were getting stuck on some of the same things, the same problems, the same obstacles that I had gotten stuck on earlier in my career. Now, if you had missed episode 141 on Hello Tech Pros, you do not realize at this point that I have struggled throughout my life and throughout my career with social anxiety. It has been a deep, dark secret that I have hid from everyone except for my wife until very recently. But once I've come out about it, it's really helped me understand and communicate to people what it's like to live with social anxiety and how the struggles at work can really get you down, right? Because at work, especially those of us who are in technology fields, right? We're software developers, we're server admins, we're DevOps. We love technology because it just makes sense, because it's logical, because it does what we want it to do without the drama and the anxiety and the angst of having to deal with other people. So social anxiety is a spectrum, right? And I probably fall on one end of the spectrum that is a little bit more painful than other people. Other people, you may get anxiety when you're speaking to a big group, or you get up and do public speaking to an audience, or the thought of maybe doing this podcast, right? That kind of unnerves you. But just normal day-to-day work of going to a meeting, sitting at a project meeting, giving a status review, those things don't stress you out. But for me, approaching people that I did not know and I was not comfortable with, and me giving them feedback on some opportunities that they could implement, some tasks, some things that they can implement in their job to increase their productivity. For me, that freaked me out, man. That totally scared the crap out of me because I was so nervous about talking to people. Any person that I was not intimately familiar with, and by intimately, I mean like I had known them for 2 or 3 years. We had worked together. We'd been in the trenches together, and they had proved to me over and over and over again that they were kind of a quote-unquote safe place. They were a safe zone, that they were a friendly, that they were not going to judge me or harass me or think bad about me or tease me behind my back or whatever. And so for much of my career, I just focused on hanging out with my friends, my buddies that I did consider friendlies, and everybody else was an unknown. I just kind of shied away from, and I didn't interact with. So at this point in my life, I was not a supervisor. I was not a manager. I was just a developer. I was just an individual contributor on the team. And I felt like, I had this passion. I was really highly motivated. Going back to Motivation Monday, I was really highly motivated to make a difference in the company, to really prove myself and to make up for some of the bad choices or bad decisions that I had been doing earlier throughout the last 6 months or so. So I wanted to help the company. I wanted to help the department. And I also, as I was meeting and greeting and getting to know these new people on the team, I wanted to help them too. And I saw a lot of opportunities on our team to really improve. But I was shy and I was uncomfortable with approaching new people. And I also felt that, I don't have authority. Why would they listen to me? Yes, they're new and I've been here for several years now, but I'm not the boss. I'm not the boss of them. I'm not a lead. I'm not a manager. I'm not a supervisor. I'm not a director. I'm not a chief technical officer or anything like that. I'm just Chad, right? And why would they listen to me? Well, luckily, I found through a lot of just really simple interactions with people, just conversations, one-on-one conversations with people at the office, that they were really hungry for ideas on how to improve their productivity, how to improve their careers, and that there were a lot of people who were like-minded like me. There were a lot of people who saw the same opportunities and saw we're not as efficient as we can be. We're not as productive as we can be, but I just don't know what to do, and I don't know how to approach it. And so in this episode, I'm going to tell you about what I discovered about how to influence your colleagues into action, into actually doing stuff and taking action and experimenting and applying these lessons that we've learned in our careers without necessarily moving into management. So at the same time that I was having these thoughts about we need to increase the productivity of the overall group, and we've got all these new people and somebody needs to help them out, my boss actually approached me and he said, "Chad, I need a number one." I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. What does that mean? Like a number one what? He said, a number one, like Star Trek. I need a number one. I said, okay, you need like an executive officer, like a Will Riker? Yeah. I need an XO. I need somebody who can be my right-hand man in this department, my right-hand man in leading this group. And I said, okay, that I'm not a Will Riker. I'm not a leader. I just want to, I'm like the engineer, right? And not I'm not Scotty. I'm just one of the red shirt engineers that will be one of the first to die whenever we get attacked by aliens. I am not the leader that's going to help us guide this group. So what exactly do you mean? And he said, well, I need somebody to go to the meetings. I need somebody to wrangle the other developers. I need somebody to understand what's going on from a high level prioritization standpoint and help me keep all the developers on task and help me understand what all the customers need and to implement all of these best practices across the team. And I'm like, whoa, you lost me at meetings. I do not want to go to a bunch of meetings. I mean, me going to my own meetings for my own project status stuff is honestly stressful enough as it is, because I wasn't admitting it at the time, but because of my issues with social anxiety, just going to going to meetings in general just stresses me out. And what I really love doing is just writing code. And, I will help you and I will talk to you because, I trusted him and I had a lot of fun working with him. But I don't want to be responsible for working with other people and to hold them accountable for what they're supposed to do or to tell them what to do. So I declined that position, and he found another individual who was awesome, a fantastic person who actually came in and became one of our managers in our department. And I turned him down. I said, no, I don't want to be Will Riker. I don't want to be your number one. No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to do that, because leadership, just the word leadership actually scared the crap out of me, because I had all of the social anxiety, but also the imposter syndrome of, why would anyone listen to me? Why would anyone follow me? I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to figure this stuff as I go, and I'm not that good of a developer. I don't have a degree in computer science. Everything that I've learned hands-on and just trial and error and the hard way of hacking and slashing up code. And you know what? I'm still learning the best practices. I don't feel I feel like a complete fake. Just the word leadership and Chad in a leadership position, I feel like a complete fake even thinking about it or talking about it. No, it's not for me. So I declined that position and I didn't get into leadership at that time. But as all these new people started coming in, and I started working with them on a peer-to-peer relationship level, on a it's just a bunch of guys and girls going out to lunch together and really gritching and moaning about the problems that we all see here in the department. And I say, hey guys, if you think that is bad, you don't know the depths of it, because you haven't seen all of the code repositories that I've seen over the years that I've been here. You haven't worked with all of the customers that I've worked with. It's worse than you think, right? And so we would all at lunch or on breaks, kind of complain and gripe and vent to each other about all the problems that were going on. But unfortunately, I saw very little action being taken place in order to improve things. And I started taking notes. I started jotting down all my ideas on all the different ways that we could improve things in our group. And it was... again, it was software development group, so there were things in our code repository we needed to upgrade. We were using Team Foundation Server, like one of the early. No, we were using not Team Foundation Server. We were using what were we using? Visual Source Safe, VSS, Visual Source Safe, and we were looking at upgrading and moving into Team Foundation Server, but we didn't really have a plan for it. The structure of the VSS repositories were just complete chaos. Nothing was named appropriately. There were no namespace standards. There were no coding standards. There were no operating standards like SOPs. There were no engagement standards on how we engage the business, how we engage the customers. There were no standards on how we provide estimates or the coding patterns. What were the consistent things that we're going to implement over and over again. And so it just felt like the entire group was just a bunch of cowboy coders, which we were, a bunch of cowboy coders doing everything our own way. And yes, we were getting things done. Yes, we were all very highly intelligent, highly capable people as individuals, but we were not running together as a team. We were not operating as a team. It was just kind of everybody on their own, and it was okay, but there was a lot of improvement opportunities there. And so I started just taking notes of all the different things that I saw across all these different areas. The way that we dealt with customers, the way we dealt with estimates, the way we dealt with bugs or service tickets or fixes or enhancements or new projects. The way that we were assigned on projects and who was assigned on projects. I started taking notes on all the opportunities that I saw, and I started having individual one-on-one conversations with people saying, hey, you know what? I see that we kind of, our VSS repositories suck. They are so horrible. I can't find anything when I get assigned to an enhancement for an existing project, for an existing code base out there. Like, it takes me literally hours and hours or days and days to try to track it down and find, do we even own the source code anymore? Do we even have the code for this project that's out in production that I'm supposed to support? Because I can't find it anywhere, and it takes me days to find it because there's so many people that have left the organization. There's nobody here that can tell me where it is. And I'm trying to literally call or email or text my buddies who work at a different company now and say, hey, remember when you left this company 4 months ago, 6 months ago, and you were working on XYZ project? Like, where's it at? That was a bad way to get things done. And there was just so much inefficiencies. So I started having these one-on-one conversations with people, and they said, you know what, Chad, you're right. You're absolutely right. This stuff is wrong. We need to do something about it. We need to work on it. But we all felt at the same time, and I discovered that we all kind of had this feeling that, yes, we needed to make improvements across the group, but none of us had time to work on improving the process. None of us had time to implement a process because we were so busy with just trying to keep our customers happy. We were so busy with trying to keep the boss happy. We were so busy trying to do the day-to-day operations or the projects, the new development stuff, that we didn't have time to go back and clean up our own house. And until management made a decision and told us to do it, that it would never get done because obviously we have too many other commitments to do. So at that point, I started leading my team, and I started influencing my colleagues, and I also started influencing management into implementing these things that we needed to do. And I did so without having any kind of formal authority to do so. Right? I was about to say respect, but respect was not a good word. I had a lot of respect around the organization, but I had no authority to implement anything. I had no budget decision. I had no hiring and firing decision. I had no project management decision, right? I was just an individual contributor on the team, and I actually helped implement. I actually drove a lot of the implementation of fixing a lot of these problems, or at least starting a process to fix a lot of these problems, by just being an individual contributor on the team. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did that in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. Okay, we're back with Leadership Wednesday. We're talking about how to influence your colleagues into action without moving into management. And if you missed episodes 1 and 2 in the Signature series, this career hyperdrive course that we're talking about here throughout the week, the 7-day course, go to hellotechpros.com/career and sign up there, get access to all 7 of the audio files for the training, as well as all the key takeaways, the call to actions, and the homework for these episodes, because actually implementing these things, implementing the ideas in these shows is what's really going to set you apart from the other people who are listening to podcasts and watching videos and reading books and actually not taking action. If you're an action taker, then you're going to get so much done in your career. You're going to be seen as a person who is valuable because you are not just sitting there waiting for permission to do something. You're actually taking action. You're being proactive. And you're going to get stuff done. And you're going to launch your career into hyperdrive by just following these the homework that is in these courses. So again, go to hellotechpros.com/career. Now, right before the break, I was telling you about the time where we needed to get a lot of stuff done. There were a lot of opportunities to improve the process or implement any process because we were just cowboy coders. We were just a bunch of 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 people working as individual contributors with no cohesiveness across the team. We were just developers. Honestly, there were probably 50 or 80 projects that were in production, and a lot of the work was just trying to do maintenance on the code that was already in production. And a lot of the development stuff was not really writing new code. It might have been developing some new features. It might have been enhancing some of the projects that we had, but a lot of it was just trying to maintain, keep the lights on, operational type work of source code across 50 or 80 different projects. And what I found throughout trying to support these things as we were growing the team is there were no consistency across any of these projects. There were no consistent development patterns. There was no consistent, like, what languages were we going to use? Visual Basic, Cold Fusion, VB.NET, C#.NET, right? There was no cohesiveness across anything. And even in, let's say, just C#.NET, there were no standards. There were no visual standards for our UI and UX. There were no coding standards about what patterns we were going to use in what circumstances. We had a few common libraries that were, common pieces of technology that were used across multiple projects, like a data access layer, but where that data access layer was used on which projects was kind of hit or miss. We never knew until we opened up the code of what that situation was going to look like, or even where the code is. Like, hey, we got a production support ticket in, and it would take us all day or 3 or 4 days out of a week, Monday through Wednesday, trying to track down and find where is the honest goodness code for this project, because we can't find it because there's no naming standards, there's no structure standards in our coding repositories. Everything was just a complete mess. And so as I started writing down all the opportunities, as I started socializing all the opportunities with just one-on-one conversations with people. Say, hey, Jeff, I see this thing here and it's a complete mess. What do you think? Hey, Mike, I see this thing here and it's a complete mess. What do you think? And as I started getting feedback from individuals, I found that everybody else was thinking the same thing too. Like, everybody saw that it was a complete mess, but nobody had time to do anything about it because we were all so busy of just trying to keep up with the tickets that were going on. And we felt like we could never get anything done without management coming to us and telling us to fix these problems. But here's the problem. Here's the rub, is that management didn't know how bad it was. Management just knew that, it took us X amount of time to get anything done. They didn't realize that it was because we didn't have, because our repos, our source code repos were in such a state of mess that we couldn't find anything, and that's why it took so long to get done. They didn't know that there were opportunities in our coding patterns and in our the types of just repeatable, reusable libraries that we could be using over and over again to kind of bootstrap and start up our projects over and over. Again, this was way back in the early 2000s, right? 2002 or 3 or 5 or something like that. And so .NET was just getting started, and things were a lot different than they are today, but still there were a ton of opportunities. And so I declined the position to be my boss's right-hand man, to be his will wrecker, to be his number one, but I still had a great relationship with him, and we had one-on-ones, and in one of the one-on-ones, I went to him and I said, hey, Patrick, you know what? I've been writing down a lot of opportunities. We talk about getting more done, and we've hired a bunch of people, and that's great, but a lot of people that I've talked to are struggling with some of the same things that I'm struggling with, which is trying to get things done, but you can't get things done because you're supporting code bases that are completely divergent. Every project that we move to is something completely different, and so everything that we work on seems like a lot of research and very little work. So I've written down some ideas on how to improve it. And so through our one-on-one discussion, we talked about all the different ideas that I had to improve it. He's like, Chad, this is great. This is perfect. This is awesome. I wish you would have come to me earlier, but no big deal. Like, so thankful that you came to me. Wow, you've shown so much initiative by taking a look at this and just writing down a list of all the things that we need to do. Now from this, we can create project plans in order to do it. And I said, oh, really? Wow, because we all the developers are just kind of assuming and thinking and talking amongst ourselves like, you're not going to give us time in order to work on this. He said, are you kidding? This is the most important thing ever. Like, if we're trying to implement new things, like I don't want us to just do operational support. I want us to build new projects, like value-added projects for the business, but we can't take the time to do that because we spend so much time working on this operational support stuff. If we could reduce the time that we spend on operational support, then we could go out and be really value-added organization to the business. And instead of being a cost center, we can start being, a revenue maker for the business. And that would be so awesome. That would allow us to do so many great things. So what can we do to implement these projects to make these changes that you're talking about? How much time is it going to take, and how many resources do we need? And for me, that was mind-boggling, because now I had just influenced my management into agreeing with me that we needed to do something. And what I didn't understand before is that, until someone tells management the state of where we are and what the opportunities that we have, like, they're not going to come up with these ideas on their own, right? They need someone on the team to step up and say, hey, we need to do this. We need to clean up our own house, right? We need to refactor our own department. We need to implement some processes across our department. And until someone tells them exactly what's busted, they're just looking at the metrics. If they're not actively in the code all day, every day, if they're not actively working on the service tickets all day, every day, they're just trying to keep things afloat and like hire the right number of people. They don't have time to understand what's going on down in the trenches. And so we need someone on the team to be that liaison and to step up and to say, you know what, even though I don't have the authority to make any changes, I'm going to at least be proactive and communicate to management about what's going on down here in the trenches. So that's step number one, is make that list of all the opportunities that you see. And then step number two, present that list to your management team and say, hey, here's all the things that I see that we could be doing. Once I did that, he's like, that's great. Now, how are we going to do it? How are we actually going to implement it? Unfortunately, I did not have that answer. I did not have that answer because just the research alone on, we need to upgrade our, we need to restructure our VSS code repositories. We need to restructure all of our code repositories. And to do that, I'm hearing about this Team Foundation server. I'm hearing about other technologies out there. We need to do some research on what all source code repositories are out there today and which one would be the best product or the best solution for our group. We need to implement one of them. And then when we implement it, we don't need to just copy and paste, do an export import from all of our old repository into the new repository. We really need to take the time to come up with a structure on how we're going to do it and what's the right paths to put everything into the new repository, regardless of what that repository is. And we need to take some time in order to talk about it and to come up with it. And he said, okay, well, think about it. And we got so many things here on the plate. What can we do to maybe break it up and to give other people responsibility across the team? And so at that point, I I started recruiting the other developers on the team and started kind of pitching them on the idea of, you know what, you are so passionate. Mike, you are so passionate about the troubles with our source code repository. I think you would be the perfect person to kind of lead us in this area and be the point person to do a lot of the research and to figure out what different options in source code repositories are out there, and then come back to the team and give us some options so that we can have talking points on what to discuss. And then, David, you are really, really passionate about these data access libraries and these common libraries that we're using or not using. We're inconsistently using or not using these libraries across the team. You would be a great person to lead us in that area. So instead of me being a leader to own all of this stuff, I started recruiting other developers to be a leader of just an individual project, of just an individual initiative. And this was before there were projects to actually do it, but just, hey, can you write up, I've got 3 or 4 bullet points on each one of these, but can you really think through and write up all the things that we should be doing and all the things that we at least need to have a discussion about and start working on that? And they were like, Chad, I would love to, but I don't have time. I said, you know what? I talked to the boss, I talked to Patrick, and he said that it's completely okay. It is wonderful if we would spend 4 to 8 hours a week, each one of us, on focusing on these issues to clean up our own house. So we can spend 10 to 20% of our week absolutely working on these things. And they were like, wow, really? You got that? So it's okay if on our timesheets we say I spent literally all day Friday working on our source code repositories or on our repeatable code patterns or whatever. Could we actually do that instead of booking to a project or instead of booking to a service ticket? I said, absolutely. I got Patrick to sign off on that, and he said across the board, without exception, yes, everyone can do that. And then people started doing it. See, people need, in many cases, they need permission to do things before they take action. They need someone to tell them it's okay, you're not going to get in trouble. It's okay to work on these great ideas, and I'm allowing you to do it. I'm giving you permission to do it. So many people, including myself, so many times throughout my career have needed permission in order to do something. Otherwise, I just kind of do my own thing. And so what I've discovered throughout this process is a leader is someone who not necessarily has that authority figure, right? Is not necessarily that person who is the quote unquote the boss, right? But a leader is the person who goes out and seeks the opportunities that need to be implemented and then fights for the fact that we need to implement them, right? And seeks that approval, either just by doing it in themselves or by talking to the management and really convincing them that these are the things that we need to do. That leader is that person who brings that authority down and says, the boss has said that we can do it, but the boss doesn't have time to put together a whole meeting about this stuff because he's doing bigger, better things. He just said, yeah, Chad, the whole department has permission to do this. Go forth and make it happen. And so I'm taking that authority through that one 10-second conversation, and I'm applying it to you, and I'm giving you permission to work on this on behalf of management. I don't have my own project budgets. I don't have my own, right? I'm not a boss. I can't force you to do anything, but I have sought out permission on behalf of myself and permission for you to get things done, and now you can do them. And once I was able to understand that and I was able to implement that, man, our team, talk about Productivity Tuesday. Yesterday, I talked about the things that I did in my own work in order to increase my productivity as an individual contributor. Now the entire team was getting so much done because they felt empowered. The individuals on the team felt empowered that, yes, they could make a difference. Yes, they could make changes. Yes, they could challenge the status quo, and they could step up and say, "Hey, I see this opportunity here. We need to make improvements, or we need to implement a process, or we need to break the old process because it was put in place 5 years ago when the whole landscape was different, the whole culture was different, when the whole technology step was different, and it's not applicable anymore. This old process is just keeping us down. We need to get rid of it." And so every time from that point on, we discovered these ideas, we discovered these opportunities. We would discuss them as a team before we talked to management, and we would discuss them as I call them tactical teams back then, tactical teams of people who were focused on improving our software development capabilities, improving our engagement with the customer capabilities. And these teams of developers were fully functional, fully autonomous. Like, they were coming up with ideas, they were implementing the ideas, they were making improvements across the team. And I became known as a leader who was actually leading those people, leading the other individual contributors in order to take action. And because of that, my boss came back again a second and third time throughout this year process that we were making all these improvements and just getting so much work done. Came back to me twice again and said, "Chad, I need a number one. You are obviously doing it. You are a Will Riker. You just don't know it. You're just not giving yourself the credit." And eventually, the third time around, I took the challenge and I did move into management. But I moved into management because I really felt a strong connection to the individuals on the team, because I discovered throughout this process that, me solving a technical problem was great and it was fun, and writing some code or discovering that a user was using a product in a way that was unintentional, or it was not designed to solve that problem, and they were trying to solve a problem using a very creative way. And me figuring out what, from a technical standpoint, what they needed to do or what we needed to change in order to support them, that was fun. But seeing the looks on everyone's face in the team when we actually move from our old crappy busted Visual Source Safe repository into this newfangled TFS, and it had problems, it had challenges, it had a lot of opportunities for us to continually evolve and continually improve. But just the fact that everyone saw that we could continually improve and we could implement a culture of making things better across the organization, and not a culture of we're stuck in the status quo and none of us have a voice, none of us have a say. Just seeing that impact on the team, and now everyone is producing higher quality code, much more secure code. Our customers are happier because instead of waiting 2 or 3 days to even tell them what the problem is, now we can immediately go right to the source code and start digging in and identify where the problem is much faster. Our turnaround time was much faster. We were getting a very good reputation across the environment. We were getting a lot more productivity across the organization. And it was just a funner place to work, in my opinion. It was just a much more fun place to work when everybody feels like they have a voice at the table and they can contribute their ideas and can get things done. And to me, that's what leadership is all about. It's about empowering people and bringing out the best ideas across everyone at the line level, right? Everyone at the individual contributor level, bringing out those best ideas and really fostering a community and fostering that teammanship of we all have a say. And it's not just waiting on the boss, right? Waiting on Patrick in this case to tell us what to do, but to really be proactive and say, hey, there's some opportunities here. We would love to be faster. We would love to have a better reputation with the business. We would love to make these improvements. Let's say we do it together, right? And to go out and get those ideas, put them on the table, talk about them, build up some energy and momentum about it, and then pitch that idea to the boss, to the business, to the project managers, get it all, get the timesheets approved and all that kind of stuff, and then actually implement them and make it happen. And you can absolutely do that without being in management. You can do that today as an individual contributor, no matter what no matter how long you've been at the company. If you're an intern right now, just started at the company, I invite you to go through this process, and it will make a difference. Now, maybe your idea doesn't get implemented, right? Maybe the thing that you care about is not a priority right now, but just the act of going through this process will get you more attention across the team, and it will show people that you are a leader, regardless of if you have the title or not, but you are looking for opportunities and you are leading people to the things that are most important. And maybe along the way you discover that the thing that you thought was important, the thing about the source code repos in your department are screwed up, and that's the most important thing to you. Once you start discussing this with other people, you discover that, you know what, the common thing across 10 of the 20 people here is not the source code repos. They're fine with that. It's really something else. It's really the way that we interact with our QA department. It's really the way that we interact with our customers. It's really the way that we structure our projects. Whatever it is, going through this process, you're going to discover that, and you're going to be a leader who can actually get things implemented and get things done. So again, your homework is, first of all, think about all the opportunities that you see, all the gripes that you have. Write them down, make notes. Second of all, go find one person at a time and have one-on-one discussions with them. Not in a, hey, this place sucks, right? Not in a perspective of everything's horrible around here, but hey, here are some ideas that I see. Here are some things that I see that we could work on to improve. What do you think? Give me your feedback. And don't push it down to their throats, right? Don't try to ram your ideas down their throats, but really facilitate their idea discussion and get their ideas on that piece of paper. And then once you have had these discussions with 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 other people on the team, then take those ideas and bring them up to management and present and say, we as a team have discussed these things, and here's the priorities that we see. We would love the opportunity to work on these things and make things better around here, and see what they think. And then, regardless of what direction or what communication your boss or your management team provides to you, then be that mediator, be that facilitator that goes back to the team and says, hey, you know what? Our boss says that, no, we can't do that right now. Her priorities are XYZ, but these are the things that she sees as the most important. What do you guys think? And how can we get aligned on that? And it doesn't matter if you're an intern. It doesn't matter if you're a lead. It doesn't matter if you're a senior person. You can have these discussions and just invite people to the discussions. That's what a leader is. A leader is a person who invites other people to have the discussions around a topic and to facilitate those discussions in a way that good things happen and occur out of them, and we get a lot of value out of them. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about technology. So in these areas, when you're now a leader, right? So you got highly motivated, you learn how to be productive as an individual. Now you learn how to be productive as a leader without even having that manager or supervisor title. You're going to have a lot of technology in your department. You're going to have a lot of ideas from people on what technology to implement. Hey, we need to go out and buy this new shiny object. We need to go out and implement this free thing that I found on GitHub that I want to implement, right? Well, I want to implement this open source stuff. I want to build a new shiny object. If you're not careful, that can lead to a whole mess of new problems, right? Once you get people excited about making changes and excited about presenting their ideas in an organization, and once you foster that culture of, yeah, we can all make a difference and we can all have share our ideas and make improvements, then unfortunately one of the collateral damages that come from that is suddenly finding yourself in a swamp, in a rainforest of new technology where it's just constantly new things popping up and growing everywhere. And so tomorrow we're going to talk about how to choose the right technology for every situation without breaking the budget, right? Or just getting overwhelmed in the flood of all the new technology that's suddenly in your business, because now everyone is excited and everyone is a champion and everyone is a leader trying to get their ideas implemented, trying to get their new technology implemented. Because you know what? Tech is fun. We're all in this business because tech is so much fun, and we love our solutions, whether those solutions are something we bought or something we borrowed from like open source or something we build ourselves, and we want to see those solutions help other people. But if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in a situation where we have too much tech, and we want to make sure that we have the right process to choose the right tech for the right situation without burying ourselves in the technology. So again, for all the notifications and all the resources about this course, the Career Hyperdrive course, go to hellotechpros.com/career. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/185. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Leadership Wednesday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I talk about technology. On Friday, people and communication. Saturday, entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. And then next week, we kick it off with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity. And then we're back again on Wednesday to discuss leadership. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.